Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about zodiac or astrological sign compatibility between Gemini and Cancer. And yes, this does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant for both signs and people. Now, the thing about this is they are adjacent signs. I see this as neutral, but they do have a number of disparities. They're very strongly different in certain areas. And I think especially from the emotional side, Cancer, the one obvious or blatant discrepancy I think between these two is that Cancer can be very emotional and sensitive. Their feelings can get hurt readily. Cancer does strongly has a thing about ridicule and criticism, and they really do not respond to that well. Now, Gemini, though not malicious, they can like to tease and joke, and sometimes maybe I'm thinking that Cancer might take it a little bit too seriously from time to time. Gemini can be very vivacious and lighthearted. It's also a masculine sign suggesting extroversion, and they can be very sociable. Cancer is a type that can be very introverted, being a feminine sign. They like to stay at home, and they really, regardless whether this is a platonic or romantic sexual type relationship, that the strong difference is the fact that Gemini likes to, I think, it's about diversity and really likes to do a wide divergence of things. And Cancer, a lot of times, just likes to be kind of that homebody and do things more indoors. So you have really you have a very strong difference with these two. And in certain ways, this could actually the way that where they're similar is that they both can actually be adaptable and easygoing. And Gemini being a mutable sign, probably more so than Cancer, I would say. But however, this could be something where you could have certain instability as far as the moods go. I mean, Cancer is known to be moody and temperamental, and Gemini can be very changeable. They could be very about really effervescent and happy about a certain thing one minute, and then their minds could just change in a snap and be really being more pessimistic about it or just apathetic, and they just want to go from thing to thing. If this is like a situation, say, where it's a significant other situation, as I would call it, say they are married, and the thing about it is Cancer likes to have really about having stability in the home, and they often want to have a good family, or at least an adequate sized family. And Gemini may not put as much emphasis on that as Cancer would. And Gemini is really, as far as the emotions go, it's not that Gemini can't experience emotions, but they can be somewhat superficial this way. And Cancer really is a sign that could really feel very strongly and really very deeply. As far as in the bedroom goes, as far as that would go, similarly to what I just was describing, it's like Gemini it is kind of the sign. Okay, they like to have their, they may like to diversify and change. I think Cancer is pretty much a little bit more consistent as far as because the change, having that variety might not be something that Cancer always likes or enjoys. And I think Cancer would be searching for the more of an emotional rapport in terms of the sex, and Gemini may not necessarily bring that to Cancer consistently as much as Cancer would want it. Now, the thing about these two, you could have certain positives if you think about it. Now, Cancer being very family and home oriented, well, the thing about it is Gemini is very lighthearted and can be very inquisitive. And Gemini could really put up good conversation with the Cancer. I guess you could say like the family that's connected with Cancer that's not biological, like say for example a Cancer's mother or father, and then Gemini could talk up a storm and make good conversation and get along well with them because Gemini is very pliable and adaptable and can usually get along with just about any kind of personality basically. So this and I think the way these people can actually help each other in certain ways, because the Cancer person could give a little bit more subjective side to Gemini and a little help them out with a little bit more emotional depth. While as far as Gemini could help Cancer kind of get out and maybe expand perhaps their social boundaries and people, and as far as mingling and introducing them to Cancer to maybe new people and new friends, and helping them become more gregarious and more outgoing, so to speak, and be willing to try different things in life, as Gemini often strives for variety and is very versatile and multifaceted. Well, anyway, people, it's important to look at the aspect, if any, that is made between the Gemini entered person and the Cancer person, as this could indicate how these energies may integrate better than otherwise indicated, or maybe not even as well. So let me start with the, you could have a conjunction. Now, a conjunction aspect can take place. Let me give you an example. Now, let's say one person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Gemini at 28 degrees, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Cancer at 1 degree. That could be very intensifying, and really this really is a neutral. I mean, they are neutral by sign, and I see this aspect as neutral. Having someone with Gemini at 28 degrees, for example, might give a little bit more Cancer energy to them, and being someone at 1 degree Cancer can give a little bit more Gemini energy, so you might have a little bit more compatibility than otherwise indicated. But I do see this really as a neutral aspect, because conjunctions can bring about friction as well. So anyway, now another aspect you could have, you could have an out of sign sextile aspect take place, which could be positive and auspicious. Now let's say one person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Gemini at 1 degree, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Cancer at 29 degrees. Well, that would form an out of sign sextile aspect, which, as I stated, can be positive and auspicious, and you might have a little better blending of these energies than otherwise indicated. Now, factor in also they are neutral by sign, so you have to put that into the equation as well. Now, you can also have a couple minor aspects take place between these energies. Now, let's say, for example, one person you could have a semi-sextile take place between these energies. Now, let's say someone has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Gemini at 17 degrees, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Cancer at 17 degrees. Now that would form a semi-sextile aspect, like the sextile, but not quite as strong, because it is a minor one and not a major one. Now, you could also have, on the negative side, you could have a semi-square aspect take place, which is a minor aspect, which is like a square aspect in astrology, except it's modified and not quite as intense. Now, let's say one person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Gemini at 8 degrees, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Cancer at 23 degrees. Well, that would form a semi-square aspect, which I call it slightly adverse or adversarial, because it's not a major aspect, but you could still have some mild challenges between these people, because it is a negative minor aspect. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for astrological or zodiac sign compatibility between Gemini and Cancer. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about astrological compatibility between Gemini and Leo. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.